Hey, welcome back to the Man Eater channel. And Mayor Eric Adams is in huge trouble because our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is on his behind and she is going to rip him a new one, boy. Right now, they are filing a lawsuit, our Attorney General. And basically, what she's stating is that the sanctuary city law that we are currently living under, which is unconstitutional and non existent and baseless, yes, what she's saying is that the law is unconstitutional and it's infringing upon the federal government's ability to conduct their business as far as illegal immigration goes, and that means arresting them. And she is absolutely right. Now, I'm going to get into how Sanctuary City kind of began here in New York and who did it and why they did it at the time. But I really want to take the time out to thank our Attorney General because I thought New York was getting away. I said once again, man, that we're going to get away. These guys are not going to get punished. Nobody's going to do anything, and the illegals will continue to flood New York because a lot of them are coming up here and they are hiding. We're getting new people all the time, and you can see them as you just walk around. You know, you're familiar with your area or whatever, and we're starting to see these people. They're hiding. They look, they're looking around, and like, you can tell they're a little bit on edge. Some people, you know, and they should be. I'm glad they're on edge because they're not supposed to be here and they're supposed to be going home. Now I wonder what good old, Merrick Adams. I'm I'm Eric Adams. I'm a vegan. I dress real nice. I smile real pretty. I'm Eric Adams. I wonder how he's going to handle this. Because he, as the mayor, he's stating that he doesn't have the ability to go at the sanctuary law, and he does because it was started by another mayor, and I'm going to show you guys that right quick. But I just wanted to come on, and I'm so excited about this lawsuit. I hope the Attorney General Bondi, I hope she wins this lawsuit because it's imperative that they come into New York City because there's tons of drugs, a lot of violence, a lot of sexual crimes going on. There's a lot of dirty, underhanded stuff going on in the city, and it would be nice to clean it up. Coupled with the fact that there's so many pedos, short eyes out here. And they're in a lot of these neighborhoods where there are schools. A lot of the short eyes people tend to flock to neighborhoods where there are lesser fortunate people or people who they perceive to be as less, intelligent and, more needy and less attentive to their children or whatever. So they tend to flock into these areas. And the Bronx has a lot of pedophiles, a lot of them. And I do believe that some of them may be undocumented, and it would be a great thing to get them out of the city and let the kids roam freely, and feel safe. But I'm going to get into how Sanctuary City began in New York to try to explain it to people so they can have a better understanding, because a lot of New Yorkers really don't get it. They walk around talking about we a sanctuary city, we a sanctuary city, and they have no clue as to how we became a sanctuary city, and why. And let's get into that right. Yeah, so Mayor Edward Koch, that was one of my favorite mayors growing up. He did a lot of great things for this city. He sold this city, no matter what nobody say. Giuliani came along and made it safe. He did. But Koch made New York, New York. He made people buy into the city. He got people to love this city and invest in the city. And it was Mayor Edward Koch that came up with Sanctuary. And the reason why he came up with Sanctuary City was because at that time there was a civil war going on with the Nicaragua, hey saying the Nicaragua, Guatemala, and there's another country, El Salvador, and they were having some type of civil war. I don't know if it was a drug war or not. I forget. I can go back and look it up, but that war was going on, and this was like in the early '80s, maybe like late '70s, early '80s. This was going on, so a lot of them were fleeing to America. And quite naturally, everybody, for some reason, New York is always one of the biggest designated targets for everybody. So, they were coming here, and, the people were being beaten up. Some of them were being, raped or whatever, and being treated misfairly, right? And so they were refugees, mind you. Excuse me if I said that wrong. They were refugees. And they were here because, in those countries, they would just set you up like in a line and fire on you. They call it the firing squad, right? So it didn't matter if you did anything or not. If they perceived you as being somebody that was going against what they wanted, they would just wipe you out, right? So that's why they were granted refugee status at the time. So while they were here, crimes were happening to them. They were getting beat up, robbed, rape, different things were going on. So what Mayor Edward Koch decided to do was grant them sanctuary and said like this: you can report crimes. If you need any services from the city, you can go and get that. And what we're going to do is not um, put the pressure on the city employees to report you as an illegal alien or illegal, immigrant. Okay, so I guess maybe, like I said, they might have been people who were here not under refugee status. Just maybe they just came over like, hey, those people are there. I'm gonna go over there because they're there. But either way, he wanted them to have the ability to contact the police was the most important thing because a lot of them are constantly being robbed, beaten up, and different things like that. It's an episode of what's that, Hill Street Blues? They addressed it one day. It was an episode about an immigrant or whatever. Violence was going on with that person, and they shared that episode in Hill Street Blues. So it gave us a better understanding of why the city wanted to absorb its workers from reporting them, and a lot of people probably didn't want to deal with that. People are human beings, and you come in and it's like, oh man, I got to report you. You seem like a nice person, and the workers are probably complaining about that. Okay, I do not think that Mayor Mayor Edward Koch, and it doesn't say anywhere, and in fact, he came out and made statements against illegal immigration when he was saying like, we can't put the immigrants over the Americans. Okay, and this was later because they kept piling up, they kept coming and coming or whatever. So at some point he's like, okay, we can't put these people over, the American citizens. We want to help, but we can't, go blind to the fact that we have people here that we have to help. Okay, so the situation we're in today, this is not why Edward Koch started Sanctuary. He started it to give them certain protections and to absolve city employees. But he never said that he would get in the middle of immigration coming in to get somebody if they needed to get them. He just said, hey, we're not going to help you. We're not going to help you find these people or whatever, but we are not going to impede, and we're not going to allow people to come out and attack immigration workers and stuff like that. None of that stuff was going on. They just say, hey, we're not going to help you. And today, they're still doing that, but on top of that, they've added violence to it, whereas they're not arresting these protesters like they should. President Trump just won, I think, an injunction or something like that, where the court said that, yeah, now these people can be arrested if they put their hands on an agent, which is good. We can't just go up to the police and start whacking on the police. You're going to jail for doing that. So yeah, it doesn't matter if you want to go or not. You don't have the right to attack ICE agents, and neither do Americans. So any Americans out there doing it, they get caught and they go to jail. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you either, because nobody should be putting their hands on law enforcement. You're not supposed to do that, right? But yeah, Bill de Blasio came along and he opened up sanctuary cities to mean all this other stuff, and it didn't mean that. And it's really based on, it's like a courtesy, really, because sanctuary ended in somewhere back in medieval times. They ended sanctuary, and they opt to have parliament. What you see today is parliament in the UK and the other side of the Western world. They use parliament, and they got to parliament from sanctuary. And they used sanctuary because the religious leaders felt that, criminal punishment, putting people in prison, people were starving, whatever the situation was, they felt it was too cruel, and that people should be given a second chance, before the eyes of the Lord. They should be given a second chance. So they would take them into the church, you know, I don't know, let them eat, punish them, whatever. And then after they went through whatever they went through, they would leave the church. Well, they didn't punish them, but they would preach to them or whatever. And they weren't allowed to kind of like roam outside of the church, but they would stay there until their sanctuary service period was over. And then they had to be exiled. Okay, so they got no punishment for killing people and, just destroying people's lives. They just were remanded to the church. And then after the church, there was exile. You went to another country. You couldn't stay in that place. You had to go somewhere else. And that was the extent of the punishment. And this is where we are today, as you see people committing crimes and being let out of prison. And so they just went back to medieval times. Something that I think it was a King James the fifth, I believe it was, who came along and he ended it. And he was like, yeah, enough is enough, because too many people at the top were getting away with it queens, kings were murdering off their children, murdering off, whatever, to hold on to the status or to put in place the child that they wanted to be the king, the prince, the queen, or whatever. So they were just knocking people off, and they was like, no, we can't allow sanctuary anymore. So they ended it. And that was the end of that. And so these people decided, oh, we're going to do some form of sanctuary in the church and we're going to do this. But none of it is based on anything. And people are walking around acting like it's okay for us to live in a sanctuary city when it's really garbage. It's not based on anything. And if you look up the laws of sanctuary city or something like that, you'll see that it's based on absolutely nothing. We've been living a lie. We've been living a lie, and people have voted for a lie. There's no such thing as sanctuary city. It's crap. And like I said, I really hope that the Attorney General comes in and whoops Eric Adams' ass, Governor Hochul ass, everybody. Just put on your spike boots and come in ready for war, because these people are corrupt. Um, they want to just protect their cheap labor staff at all costs. And we're in New York City. A lot of these jobs are not picking fruits. This is New York City. Where's the fruit picking and stuff like that? A lot of these people are on very good jobs that Americans have put in countless applications for, and they're never chose. And we know why. Okay? So, yeah, congratulations to us, New York City. I can't wait for them to get in here. I hope they flood us with agents, because you're going to need them. And these people do tend to get violent. That happened before when ICE came in. They were jumping on ICE agents out here. And I think it was in Brooklyn. They were jumping on ICE agents or whatever. So, yeah, send the army. I got to talk to President Trump. Send in the army, the boots on the ground. Because I'll tell you what. You put your hands on a army, a soldier, and he's gonna fold you up real nice. That is the ground combat, boots on the ground. They'll fold you up real nice. So I think we should switch around and add the army, and instead of the National Guard or the Marines, put the army out there. Well, I hope I did my best to inform you. Share the video, click on the video, like the video. It would help me tremendously.
Go, 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 go.